Welcome to the Empire Builders Podcast, teaching business owners the not-so-secret techniques that took famous businesses from mom and pop to major brands. Stephen Semple is a marketing consultant, story collector, and storyteller. I'm Stephen's sidekick and business partner, Dave Young. Before we get into today's episode, a word from our sponsor, which is, well, it's us. But we're highlighting ads we've written and produced for our clients. So here's one of those.
Hi, I'm Mark Tapper, and at Tapper's Jewelry, we believe...
Terribly sorry to interrupt, old chap.
Sir Richard Poshingham, please, come in.
Heard a horrifying rumor about Tappers.
What is it?
Well, seems people are going around saying...
Yes?
Can hardly bring myself to make the accusation.
Just tell me.
Well, the story goes that Tappers offers financing.
Yes?
Of course, I ignore such horrible gossip. I mean...
We do.
Obviously, you wouldn't want to be associated with the sort of...
We offer financing.
The sort of people who are not overrun with cash on hand. The right sort of people, you understand? I mean...
Tapper's Jewelry offers financing up to 60 months. It's just a convenience.
Oh, it's true. Well, forgive me.
We make it easy to choose what you want and pay how you like.
Of course, we have payment options at Poshingham's too.
Really?
We accept cash, titanium credit cards, and, of course, bullion.
Very convenient.
Tappers, tell us your story.
At Tapper's Jewelry, we want to hear your story. Everybody has one, and we'll help make yours legendary.
Stephen, last week we talked about DoorDash, and this week on the notes I see we're going to talk about Michelin. Is this another food-related podcast? Are we talking about restaurants with Michelin stars, or are we talking about tires?
You know, you took away my punchline because I was going to ask, have you ever heard of the Michelin ranking for restaurants? And have you ever wondered if it was tied to the car company? Ding, ding, ding. Dave kind of gets a gold star, but at the same time, kind of
my first Michelin star.
Yeah, your first Michelin star, and kind of screwed up my opening. So for those for the people listening, wondering whether we rehearse these openings, you now know we don't.
No, of course we don't.
But yes, we are going to talk about Michelin. So first, a little bit about Michelin. Michelin's an old company. Michelin was founded on May 28th, 1898.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
1898. Okay.
1898 in Clermont-Ferrand, France, which is basically in the Alps. And it was founded by two brothers, Edward and Andre Michelin.
Okay.
And today, it is the largest tire manufacturer in the world. And as a bit of an interesting sidebar, the Michelin Man is one of the oldest trademarks in the world. That was trademarked back in 1894.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Before the company.
No, the company was 18. Oh, yes. Before they actually officially formed the company, they've been selling tires. Yeah. Okay. And the idea came when the brothers noticed a stack of tires that looked like a man. They said, let's create the Michelin Man. Now, sorry.
And back then there were a lot of white tires. Natural rubber was white. So yeah. Yeah, which is the reason why a lot happened. And a lot of tires were white walls and things along that lines.
But you know you're doing well when you become part of pop culture. And one of my favorite things is I love the episode of when the Michelin Man was murdered by Chris Griffin and the Family Guy on behalf of Mr. Firestone. I just think that's, you're big when that happens. When you're on the Family Guy, you're big. And maybe in the future, we'll do a whole thing on the evolution of the Michelin Man as a trademark and how it all came together. But back to the Michelin restaurants. So it started in 1900. In 1900, Michelin was by far the largest tire maker in France. But they had a problem. There were only 3,000 cars in all of France. So when you're number one and the market is small, how do you grow your business?
You got to get people to buy more tires. You're going to have to get people to buy more cars, and you're going to have to get people to want to go places.
Bingo on the second one. It's hard to get people to buy cars, but it's easy. So they thought if we can get people to go places, tires will wear out faster, and also it might create demand for cars. But the whole idea was get people to go places.
This is so aligned with the old story of you don't want to sell somebody a drill. What they need is a hole, right? So,
right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Steve. I'm excited about this.
So what they did is they created this star system for restaurants. 1 star means it's a good restaurant in its category. 2 stars means it's worth a detour. 3 stars means it's exceptional and it's worth a trip all on its own.
It's a destination.
It's a destination. And if we think back to the 1900s, there were not many maps. People did not travel places and didn't know where to go. So Michelin created this guide that went, hey, if you were looking for a place to go, look up a 3-star restaurant and drive there. If you're going somewhere, here's a detour you can do. If you're just looking for something in your neighborhood, here's what it is. So that's where the 3-star, originally it was 3 stars, and that's where the 3 stars came from. 1, good restaurant in this category. 2 stars, excellent, worth a detour. 3 stars, exceptional, worth a special trip.
I love this because they knew their audience, and they knew that people needed a reason to go somewhere.
Right. And as people get driving, they're wearing out their tires.
Yeah.
And they're going to sell more tires. And this is a strategy you can only use when you're number 1 in the market, because what they did is they grew the size of the market. Now, if you're number 3, you're going to stay at number 3, which means you're giving business to everybody else. But when you're the market leader, you can do a strategy like this. You can grow that market. And this proved so popular that a few years later, in 1904, they published one for Belgium. Right? So they started making tires there. And then between 1907 and 1911, they greatly expanded the countries. And up until 1922, it was given away for free. And it was just really the only thing you saw in it was promotions for Michelin. And one of the brothers walked into a tire shop one day, and he saw his magazine being used to prop up a workbench. And he suddenly realized a man only respects what he pays for. So they started to charge 750 francs, a little over $2 for the publication. Now, at that time, what they also did is they pulled the ads and they added new categories. They added hotels, and they actually started to employ a team of people to do the reviews. So in many ways, it started to become a business of its own, the Michelin book. And in the early days, the Michelin Man was on the cover, and the show notes got a great example in the show notes on the website of one with Michelin Man smoking a big stogie. Different times, right?
Different times. Yeah.
He was still fat then too, fat with a big stogie. But of course, the publication was suspended in World War II because it had all sorts of maps in it.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Right. So it was suspended in World War II. And then following the war, there were many food shortages throughout Europe. And so it was reduced to a 2-star ranking, because at that point, Michelin did not actually believe that it was possible to have a 3-star restaurant. The guide took these rankings very, very seriously. And the part that I always found interesting, it wasn't until 2005. So you think about how long, 90 years later, that it finally came to the United States. Took a long time.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it took a very, very long time to get to the U.S. And today you can advertise in the guide, and as I said, it's very much become a business of its own, and they're very they very much hide who the reviewers are and take this whole Michelin star ranking very, very seriously. But this all started as a business to sell tires.
And it's still the same company?
Still the same company.
Still the same company. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, and they've returned to putting the Michelin Man actually on the cover. He's back on the cover. I mean,
just the idea that you can get people, business owners in an entirely unrelated category, to covet the validation of your tire manufacturing company. is just an amazing story in and of itself. And I think they created, even with that aspirational notion of restaurant owners, they've always been an aspirational brand in their category. I can remember when I was a kid, my dad had a Cadillac, right? I mean, in a small town in North America, you had a Cadillac, man, you're doing all right. But you know what he really liked about it? Had Michelin tires on it.
Right.
Michelin's. Right. And I remember him talking about that. Like that was a big deal to him.
So much riding on your tires.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that whole campaign. But, the lesson here is publications can be a really effective marketing tool, but only if you're producing something.
Stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
Brought to you by the Least Full of Shit Marketers Association of America. Yes, that's a low bar, but we clear it mightily. We're also the largest pay-per-performance branding group in North America, and that part's for reals. If you're looking for advertising advice geared towards local owner-operated companies, this is your podcast. And now you can pick the brains of these advertising geniuses over lunch without having to pay for lunch or even leave your office. We're talking 90 minutes of straight answers to all your burning questions about lead generation, customer acquisition, mass media branding, how to get off the paper-crack treadmill, anything you want, and the only coin required is candor. Because we can't give no bullshit advice without basing it off no BS data on your company, competitive landscape, operations, and all that jazz. We send you a pre-Zoom questionnaire, you fill it out candidly, and boom, Bob's your uncle, you're in like Flynn, and we'll be frank as fuck in giving you the straight scoop on all the advertising and business growth questions you always wanted to know, but were too afraid to ask. You'll also get our no pitching and no bitching guarantee. No pitching means we won't pitch you or try to sell you in any way. If you want more after 90 minutes, you'll have to ask. And no bitching means if you don't think the meeting was worth your 90 minutes, we'll send you $100. Consider it us picking up the tab for lunch and putting our money where our mouth is. Sound like a not-so-full-of-shit offer? Well, that is what we're known for. Take us up on it at empirebuildersprogram.com.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
Publications can be a really effective marketing tool, but only if you're producing something that is valuable enough that a customer would be willing to pay for it, even if you're giving it away for free. So when I've been working with customers for creating publications, I've always started off, well, let's put a price on this. Would somebody actually be willing to spend $15 for this or whatever the price is? And produce content that would make it so that somebody would be willing to pay for that, even if you don't charge them. But that's the test. So the publication can't be all about tires. Here's the compound. Here's the tread. Here's what's wonderful about it. No, it was about something different. It was about, here's a place you can travel to.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you need tires, we got some of those.
And if you need tires, we got some of those. I did marketing for a company in the medical space. We did consulting to the pharmaceutical businesses. And one of the big challenges in the pharmaceutical space is the ongoing changes of the rule, especially in what's called the quality and compliance space, which is where we did the consulting. So we created this little booklet that basically summarized the Government of Canada rule changes. And in a way in which it made it easy for somebody to look up the rule changes. And people were willing to buy that book. There was a period of time where they sold them and then they started giving them away for free. But that publication was not about our services. That publication was to help people with the Government of Canada stuff. But the corollary to that is what they think about us. Well, geez, if you created this booklet, you must know the rules really well. Right? And it created awareness and put it in people's hands, and they wanted the publication. And that publication had a couple of ads inserted into it about what it is that we did. Kind of like what we're doing in the podcast here, right? A couple of little ads in there on it.
That's a great move. It's a brilliant content marketing example that's worked well for 100 years.
Right. And people want to walk around going, the internet, we've invented content marketing. It's like, no, it ain't new. It ain't new. It ain't new.
Not at all. All right. Well, I'm happy to know the Michelin story now, Stephen. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.